Welcome to the What If podcast with your hosts, Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood.
What if it really went down in the DMs? That's what we're talking about today on the What If podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This might be kind of a weird episode. I slept for 10 hours last night.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I went to bed at 8 p.m.
You are locked and loaded today, aren't you?
Feeling real good.
What prompted you to go to bed at 8 p.m.?
Sleeping like 5 hours the rest of the week. Yeah.
Like total or at night?
No, like per night.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
5 hours that whole week. Are you dead, bro?
I went to my room. I was like, I'm going to read a book. It was like 8 o'clock. And then I was asleep by 8:03. And then I woke up because my alarm went off at 6 a.m. And it was 10 hours later.
I've started doing this thing when I really want to pass out where I'll put like a podcast on and I'll be like, I'll put my sleep timer on. I'll listen to like 30 minutes or so and then I'll probably be ready to go to sleep. And I wake up the next day, I'm like, I literally remember 0 minutes.
No recollection of like even hitting play on that podcast.
I was unconscious before that stopped.
Don't sleep through our podcast though, because it's cool.
Or like if you do, just come back.
True.
Join back in on the road to the DMs today, which is I guess going to be our way of talking about. Well, how do you want to say it?
We got a couple of topics we're gonna get to, but like basically spying and espionage and spy versus spy in the 21st century,
in the age of the interwebs.
Exactly.
Internet puzzles
and that maybe some spy recruitment. But I think I want to start by taking it way back.
Way back?
Well, to World War II or maybe Cold War era.
That's pre-internet.
Espionage, exactly.
Pre-internet espionage. Okay.
Exactly.
They didn't have DMs.
No. Well, they sort of did. They just called them something different.
Was it like your mail?
No, it was actually
Morse code.
It was actually your shortwave radio.
Oh, right. That's real.
Right. So I think I want to start by talking about number stations.
Okay.
We ever talked about this before?
We talked about it briefly. I have a very limited understanding.
Cool. So the short version is that number stations were broadcast on shortwave radio, and they were usually an automated voice reading a set of numbers. Typically,
it's just the concept just there is creepy.
Right.
Robot voices reading numbers into radio stations is just weird.
And I want to come back to the robot part in a second, but it was an automated robotic sounding voice reading a set of numbers, usually in English, German, Russian, or Czech.
Do we know where? Or originating from where?
No.
Or multiple places originating from where?
Well, and that's one of the benefits in this case of shortwave radio is that you can't necessarily locate geographically where it's coming from.
But like I couldn't pick up here on a shortwave something coming from like around the world, could I?
You could, yeah.
Oh.
If broadcasted strongly enough from a strong enough transmitter, shortwave radio signals can actually make it all the way around the globe.
Damn! See, I'm such a dumbass. I'm like, when I drive like 45 minutes outside of Minneapolis, I can't get NPR anymore.
Right, yeah, and FM is different than shortwave. So one of the reasons that shortwave radios can broadcast over such a long distance is that the frequency that they're broadcasting on reflects off of the ionosphere, part of the atmosphere, which can cause them, so you can reflect it and bounce it further than an FM or other radio signals could, which also makes it really hard to detect where it's originally coming from because it's reflected several times.
It's like the Tor network, which we will actually also talk about later.
Yes.
But it kind of is like that, right? Like because it is reflected from destination to destination, you don't know where the original...
It's almost impossible to track down the origin of it.
Yeah, okay.
So they were these automated voices, usually reading numbers, sometimes words, broadcast in English, German, Russian, and Czech. They were sometimes accompanied by music or other like identifiers at the beginning of the transmission. They've been used for sure since the Cold War, but maybe as early as World War II.
Okay.
Which probably also has something to do with the languages that it's being broadcast in.
Sure. So 40s through the 80s for sure.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who have researched this, especially since a lot of them have been recorded and put on the internet. People have started digging deeper into it.
Are we going to do that?
What's that?
Are we going to hear some of that?
Yeah. I will definitely play some in a second.
Oh, yeah.
People have been able to track them for sure back to like 1980.
Okay.
But people are pretty sure that they were going on during World War II as well. There just aren't necessarily recordings of those.
Yeah, I would imagine we just had generally less prevalent recording devices at that time.
Well, and it would have been much harder to know. You would have had to just stumble across one of the frequencies that they were broadcasting on and then record it. And then you wouldn't have been able to share it with anybody. It would have been recorded to a tape somewhere.
Right.
So if those recordings happened, they weren't preserved and they're not accessible now. And,
right.
50, whatever, 60 some years later.
Somebody in France is going through their grandpa's old school like 8-track collection and they're like, Grandma, what the fuck is this weird shit?
Well, it would have been way before. It would have had to be like a reel-to-reel tape recorder.
Oh, right. Yeah, that would have
we're talking
way pre
1940s. Yeah.
Right.
So this is what some of them sound like. They get pretty creepy, so
I should have taken a picture of my face as soon as it started.
Pretty creepy may have been an understatement in some cases. This one it sounds to be in German. So she's just reading a sequence of numbers in German.
It almost sounds like it's not robotic as much as it is like someone read the numbers 1 through 10 in a row.
It's sampled.
And then they sampled the whatever. I don't understand.
Well, that's the way that we do text-to-speech now. Like Siri is an actual person who read every single sound and word and phrase
syllable and
that they ever would have needed for Siri to say.
Yeah.
And it plays back those recordings. It's not synthesizing that voice. That's an actual recording.
Sure.
So some of them sound like that. There's a huge range because you think about these are coming from a bunch of different countries over a period of, these are still being broadcast now. Some of them are. So a period of,
we should go find one.
We might get there.
Okay.
So from a bunch of different countries over a period of like at least 40 years, but probably more like 60 some years. So there's a huge range in how they sound. Some of them start with music at the beginning.
Come on down to Jimmy's Chocolate Factory. We specialize in the finest of chocolate bars.
This song is actually kind of interesting. It's a folk song called The Lincolnshire Poacher, and I'll come back to that later. But this specific tune is meaningful.
It sounds like ice cream truck music.
Right.
This is going up and down South Minneapolis all through July and August.
So the music was usually used as an identifier to mean like, okay, there's a transmission coming. So they'd play music for like 20 or 30 seconds, and then they would get into the actual transmission.
39715.
So this is now probably a UK one.
39715. 39715. 39715.
So that whole transmission is almost 5 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. One more just to show you kind of the range of all of these.
I'm so thoroughly weirded out right now.
This one's going to get weirder.
Okay, tight.
Uh-huh. This one's pretty gnarly. Like, what the hell was that? It sounds like it's being played off of a tape that just slowed down.
Or it's one of those metal bars, the metal sheets that they wave and shit. They make weird like.
It sounds like there's some definite tape speed stuff going on. So this happens for a while before it gets to some actual like voice. Like that's for sure a tape stopping. That sound right there. The German ones are extra scary.
Bro,
We gotta take a.
I'm just sitting here wide fucking eyed, man.
Ryan is just making direct eye contact with me, looking freaked the fuck out.
I've just got eyes open all the way up.
Okay.
Like, what the fuck am I hearing right now?
So that's what they sound like.
I imagine probably every variation.
Yeah, and actually
imaginable in between, right?
There's on archive.org. There's this somebody put together a recording of or recordings of 150 different number stations.
Great job, internet.
Yeah, it's called the Conet project. I think that's how you say it. CONET project.
Conet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Comet with an N.
Comet with an N.
On archive.org, and these are all available as MP3s to either stream or download. But yeah, 150 different number stations recorded from, I think, going back to the 80s up through like the ones that are still being broadcast now.
And this is like just what we have documentable evidence of, right? I mean, like conceptually, there's, I mean,
right.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of these transmissions that have occurred?
Well,
we don't know.
Most of these stations broadcast 24 hours a day.
With this same weird shit?
Not always with a transmission.
But they're like on air.
Mm-hmm. So for a lot of them, like if you tune to the frequency right now, you would hear something. And there's actually a list of all the known number stations. If you want to tune into them, visit spynumbers.org. No,
cool.
Sorry, spynumbers.com.
Oh, they got the .com. Nice job.
.com. And they have a list of everything that's known to be a number station. And they I think have...
I'm about to pause the podcast and just go right now.
I think they have the option of live streaming some of them over the internet too. There are a few people that have set up shortwave radios connected to a live stream. So they're tuned to whatever frequency right and then just live streaming it to the internet.
I just love there's a level of advocacy of human beings where they're like, no, this is important enough to me. They're not benefiting from it tangibly in any real way.
The shortwave radio scene is a weird one. But anyway, so that's what they sound like. They were most likely used in order to communicate with spies who are behind enemy lines. Now,
quickly, do we know that because some of them have been decoded? Do we know that because I guess, so I don't know. People are weird. Maybe people are just playing weird shit or being fucking weirdos.
None of them have ever been decoded, and I'm going to get to that in a second because they're technically impossible to decode.
Because there's no like.
Give me like 30 seconds. I'll get to that.
All right.
A couple people more recently though, like there were two people who were arrested in Cuba on espionage charges, who had a shortwave radio on them and a book for decoding the messages. And that was the first time that it was confirmed that like at least some people are communicating with some governments are communicating with spies in this way.
Oh.
But this
isn't like a book you can buy on Amazon. This is like a...
Okay, so transition to how has no one ever decoded these?
Yeah.
They're likely using what is called a one-time pad. Basically, if you and I would have a copy of the same book.
Okay.
And they would be the only two copies of that book.
Okay.
And the book is just sheets after sheet upon sheet upon sheet of random numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the numbers stations broadcast sets of 4 or 5 numbers that are totally random.
Yep.
So you and I would both have a copy of the same book that just has hundreds of pages of random numbers. And each set of 4 numbers corresponds to a word or sometimes a phrase.
Got it.
But the only way to decode them is to have a copy of this book.
Got it.
There are only 2 copies of this book. Each page is totally different, and each page is only used once. So it's a book, but each page is sealed together. So to get from page 1 to 2, you have to rip off page 1. So I can't see page 2 until I've ripped off page 1. So we're both going to use page 1 to decode the first transmission.
Right.
You're going to rip it off. You're going to burn it. You're going to destroy it somehow.
Sure.
And now the next transmission uses a totally different cipher.
Got it. So there's no pattern to be found because with each transmission, there's a completely different cipher to decode.
Well, and each individual one is also totally random.
Each individual what?
Each individual page is completely random.
Right.
And there's so many options because if you think of a 4-digit number, that just each 4-digit number is thousands of possibilities.
Right.
And then when you think it's not just decoding to a letter or a word, but sometimes one 4-digit number can be an entire phrase. So commonly used phrases like meet me at might be just four numbers. And
then you have one entire 500 number section that's cities.
Right. So even if they're intercepted,
this shit's crazy.
Because they're going to be intercepted because anyone can tune to that frequency.
But they know that, and it's entirely safe because you don't know where it's coming from, and anyone can listen to it.
You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know who's tuning into it.
And only 2 people are speaking the language.
Right. And only for that one transmission. It's going to, even if you figured out one of them, by the time you listen to the next one, it would be meaningless. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just over here quietly tripping out.
So a one-time pad is literally the world's only unbreakable cipher.
Someone has to be making these.
The books?
Yeah.
The governments do.
But I mean, like, couldn't I bet I as a printer could go, we make 2 books that are random, we sell them in pairs.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
So who's actually printing them? But it would be meaningless to the printer because what correlates to what is agreed upon between the 2 people.
Right.
So as a printer, you're just printing sheets of random numbers. That doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't mean anything until those 2 people assign values to them.
Right.
And it's so specific to those 2 people that even if you intercepted one of the books, it wouldn't mean anything.
Right.
Because you don't know how the other person is interpreting it.
Right. And I guess if you really want to inception it and be like super whatever, you could have it where you could do layers of it, right? You could have a number that corresponds with a phrase, and the phrase is actually a code word for, like even I'm saying,
right. But you don't have to because no one can break the original code.
Right.
There's no reason to. There's no need to encode it further because no one has ever broken a one-time pad. It's, as far as anyone knows, it's impossible to do it.
I mean, it makes sense. There's no context debate. I mean, for all I've ever heard about deciphering numerical code of any kind or any code of any kind, you look for repetitions and you look for, you pair things with language, and it doesn't sound like that's even remotely a possibility.
Right.
Number stations, bro.
So that's why number stations still are being broadcast, is because even with the internet, you can track down where something is coming from. You can find an IP address. You can find a location. There's some trace of it. Even if you access something once on your computer, that information can be retrieved.
Right.
You have a piece of paper, you burn it, you eat it, even if you get captured, whatever, you tear it up.
Right.
It's gone forever.
Right. You can flush it down the toilet and it's already basically shredded.
Right. So, and with shortwave radio broadcasting these, you can access it from anywhere. A spy can walk into a Radio Shack and buy a shortwave radio and instantly be getting transmissions.
No, they can't. Rest in peace, Radio Shack.
Okay, but
no, I feel you.
You can walk into, especially back in the 80s, you could walk into anywhere and buy a shortwave radio. There are millions of them in the world.
Right.
And suddenly be getting information that only you can understand from the other side of the globe.
I mean, it seems outrageously effective for accomplishing this exact purpose, especially in a universe now where, like you said, progressively everything is more and more and more and more and more trackable.
And this whole operation costs basically nothing.
Okay, here's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can decide if it's interesting.
Okay.
Here's a question. Like, you got to be able to figure out, there are a certain number of places that can put out a strong enough radio signal that it could bounce around the world, right? I mean, that seems like
doesn't take
relatively
that much.
finite. No?
Like, we could do it from here if we wanted to. For, less money than it costs to put together our studio.
Introducing the What If podcast on your CB radio or shortwave. Or is that the same thing? No, it's different.
No. But and all of it's illegal anyway, so you don't have to worry about getting a license to broadcast.
What do you mean it's illegal?
Well, they're broadcasting without a license.
Oh.
So the FCC could come shut your ass down, but the government doesn't care. The government is the FCC, whatever.
Right. All right, we're gonna experiment with that.
But yeah, but I mean, for less money than like these mics and the computer and the preamp and shit, we could be broadcasting pretty strong shortwave signals.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
let's just abandon this entire podcast thing and start putting creepy fucking weird shit out into the shortwave universe.
So I want to get into one specific probably number station shortwave transmission.
Yeah, you do.
That's known as UVB 76.
Sounds like a weird disease. He's been infected with UVB 76.
If you have a shortwave radio and want to check out UVB 76, tune your radio to 4625 kilohertz, and you can hear UVB 76.
Wait, can we do that? No, we don't have a radio, do we?
Well, there are also a couple places that have. This is one of the ones that people have picked up and live streamed.
Oh.
So if you just do a Google search for UVB 76, you can find some streams of it.
Googling.
Anyway, it's a Russian radio station that for years broadcast a buzzing sound, just a buzzing sound.
It sounds irritating as piss.
Every second or two, it broadcasted a buzz. It was occasionally interrupted by a live person, so not an automated voice, reading stuff in Russian. This one is, to me, more interesting than some of the other number stations because it's a live person reading them. So someone was physically in a location broadcasting this.
Not a robot, not a repeated number of a recording. A guy doing something similar to what we're doing right now.
There was an open microphone in a room somewhere and someone was speaking into it.
Okay.
And because the location of this broadcast was identified in 2010.
Oh, how?
So it was broadcasting from, I don't know how to speak Russian, Povarovo, just outside of Moscow in Russia.
Spencer, I think you did great.
Thank you. I tried.
Yeah, I would have no way to tell you did wrong, so I'm going to say you did great.
I hooked on phonics to that shit.
Siri, help.
Near Moscow. We'll go with that.
Works for me as well.
6 miles outside of Moscow.
Okay.
Some people tracked down that's where it was coming from in about 2010. For one day, 4625 kilohertz went silent, and then the next day picked back up with the exact same transmissions. But it had apparently moved to a new location near St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Some people in 2011, some Russian urban explorers, found the actual location where they had been broadcasting from in Moscow. And it was an abandoned Russian military base. In the base, they found a radio log confirming that they were broadcasting at that frequency.
Whoa.
So the Russian military was broadcasting at this frequency for, I think it was since the 80s up until 2010. They realigned their military, moved some people around, left this base, closed down for one day, and then started retransmitting at the same frequency with the same messages. So from 1980 until now, you can still go listen to it. They've been broadcasting random shit in Russian. And the microphone appears to be open, on 24 hours a day. Because sometimes you can hear other shit going on in the background.
Whoa.
So it's not a recording being broadcast. And it's not even someone is walking up to a mic and turning it on once in a while. There's a room somewhere in Russia with an open mic 24 hours a day. And sometimes somebody goes in there and reads shit. But people have recorded other times where you can hear there's a woman screaming in the background.
What? No way.
Yes.
Nuh-uh.
if you want to hold for one moment, I can probably find that recording.
We kind of don't have a choice at this point. We don't have a choice.
There are other times
play that.
There are other times where you can hear like it sounds like somebody's watching TV in the background, and there are other sound you can hear like stuff just being shuffled around.
Okay, while you're searching for
ahead.
that, let me play devil's advocate or ask some questions or both, just for the sake of it. Doesn't it sound okay? So if your whole thing is we're trying to secretively pass information around the globe with this radio station, doesn't it kind of sound wild sloppy to like both leave your radio log in an abandoned military base and also have the possibility that like because it's open 24/7 that a conversation could get picked up, a piece of identifying information, a TV station.
Isn't that also the genius of it, though? Because what's being broadcast is totally meaningless except to one person. We can find all of that information. People have put all of this shit on the internet. You can find recordings of thousands of these stations on the internet.
And no one cares.
And no one can break any of it.
Yeah, I guess.
So you don't have to be careful with any of it. It's being broadcast around the world all day long.
And you don't have to pretend you're not doing it because you're like, yeah, so what? We test radio wave shit.
Well, and who's we? You can't identify where it's coming from or what it means. So who cares if anyone picks it up?
I guess, I mean, I feel the whole, like, it doesn't matter if people know. I guess I mean more like if you have a radio log in an abandoned military base, you are confirming that these are military transmissions that are being passed by radio. I mean, I guess.
But, okay.
Yeah.
So what?
I guess
all you're confirming is that it's Russian military. You still have no idea what it means.
Right. And military transmissions via radio are happening both in secret and in the open every fucking minute of every day. Yeah. Yeah, fucking weird, man, is what that is. That is weird as balls.
This is what UVB 76 sounds like most of the time.
Oh.
Coming in hot.
Oh, this is that delightful buzzing sound.
This is the buzzing that happens 24 hours a day.
It kind of sounds like a printer.
There's also clearly an open mic. Like, that is a microphone pointed at something that's buzzing.
Yeah, you can. There's almost like a rustle of some kind.
And at the beginning of the recording there, you can hear voices in the background, too. Like right there, there's a voice of some kind.
Right.
There's someone in that room.
For sure.
Or a TV or something. There's a voice in there. So that's coming out of Russia 24 hours a day with occasional, someone actually gets on the mic and reads a random string of numbers in Russian.
Fuck.
Yeah. Number stations, man. I still, it's such a good, pure mystery to me because there's really no way, even like people basically know what it is.
Right.
It's different governments communicating with spies.
Right.
Like there's really no uncertainty about that.
Sure.
But at the same time, getting any more information out of it is basically impossible.
Right. It's fully been reduced to its purest and most untrackable form.
Yeah. And it's almost just like, every government knows they're doing it. It's a fuck you to other governments and the public and like, yeah, we don't care.
Right.
Tune into them. You have a $20 radio. Cool.
Go nuts.
Listen to our spy transmissions.
Put them all on the internet.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Yeah, record them. Put them on the internet. Do whatever you want with them. If you're flying Lotus, sample them and put them in your beats.
Did he?
Yes.
Of course he did. Of course he did, you weird bastard. That's
Dude,
awesome.
There's some amazing sounds on there, and they're all public domain because no one knows who owns them.
Yeah,
and
right.
no one's ever going to claim them.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to sue you for using you should kill that diplomat message.
Right, exactly.
Damn, son.
Last thing, and then we should take a quick break.
All right, tight.
I was trying to figure out when the first synthesized voice was made.
Yeah.
Because when I was like, these are happening in World War II, there's no way there was speech or text to speech in the 40s.
No.
So I went down a little robot speech.
K-hole.
Yeah. And I found this recording from 1961 of the first computer-based speech synthesis.
61?
61. And
computer-based speech synthesis.
there were earlier versions in the 50s, actually. So it's totally believable that by Cold War, when these first recordings of number stations happened, that there was computerized text-to-speech.
How? Well, all right.
And before that, like you said, you could have had a one-time recording of like, I record myself saying numbers 0 through 9, and then there were tape-based samplers basically,
right?
Much earlier.
Click 10 buttons and
right, or like for anyone familiar with the Mellotron, it was sort of like the first sampler where you pressed a key on a keyboard and it played a tape loop of a sound,
part of a tape loop, yeah.
Right. So, but this is the first computer-based speech synthesis from 1961. Which I learned was also the inspiration for HAL on 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah. Hey, wait. I've seen that movie.
Tight. Ryan saw a movie.
What's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. He saw the cat. He saw the
cat.
The cat. He saw the cat.
Did you see the cat?
He did.
Okay.
This is 1961.
Mr. Watson, come here. I want you.
You want me?
He sure does.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them
to die, to
to
sleep.
die, to sleep.
Singing, in purely physical terms, is a
This was the actual
Oh.
inspiration for HAL in 2001, where HAL is dying and he's singing Daisy.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer
Oh my God.
I'm half crazy, all for the
My chest is
love
caving
of
in.
you.
So that was made. That's a computer made by Bell Labs in 1961, and the reason that ended up in 2001. So Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001,
Yeah.
happened to be touring the lab at Bell Labs and heard that, and then 8 years later put it in. Well, he put it in the book that then 8 years later got made into
Right.
the movie by Stanley Kubrick.
He just leaned over to whoever was giving him his tour and he was like, hey, real quick, that's the creepiest fucking thing I've ever heard. Can I put that into something?
That
And they're
makes
like,
me feel like that thing's trying to kill me. I'm gonna put it in a sci-fi movie
Okay,
or book.
if you're going to make the first like computerized voice say something, don't make it say, I want you. Because like,
Those are all quotes, weren't they? At the beginning?
well, I recognized Hamlet. I
Yeah.
guess I was maybe
I
just.
think he was just quoting literature,
all right, well, still.
and the pauses were awkward.
Let's pick quotes that aren't like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm technology and I'm gonna kill you.
Well, it worked for Arthur.
Also, for what it's worth, I would watch an entire Hamlet version that is just only fucking robot voices.
Played by 1960s Bell Labs computers.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Do you remember Robot Wars on like Comedy Central where they made the little robots that would like fight in yeah.
That made a comeback in the last couple of years.
I heard about that. Let's
Yeah.
just put voice boxes on those things and make them do Hamlet against
that would
each
be
other.
fantastic.
The duels could
And
be
then,
like
yeah.
blowtorches and shit.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So
when we come back, we're gonna put number stations aside, but we're just gonna
move up a
them.
couple decades.
We're gonna move up a couple decades, and we're gonna actually get into the DMs and see what it's like when it
Yes,
goes
sir.
down in them. We'll be right back with the What If Podcast.
We want to hear from you. Send us a message. Email hi, that's hi, at whatifpodcast.com. Or leave us a voicemail at 612-246-4614.
We're back with the What If Podcast.
Damn, this good shit.
Just saying.
Oh, man.
I fucking love number stations.
That is good shit.
And I could have gone another hour and a half about them if you wanted.
You know, it's great, man, because I feel like what people might not know, a quick look behind the curtain of the What If podcast, we exchange, I would say, regular, if not more than regular, emails, texts, tweets of like, yo, we got to get a drop for that for the show.
Check out this one. Oh, yeah, right.
Like this would be funny if we had a button we could push where we could say that.
I spend most of my free time just like watching dumb videos, trying to see if I can pull
Find an audio clip.
sound out of them. Yeah.
And I think the most recent addition was the rap board, and now you have apparently added
Tourette's guy
from like 2003 internet meme fame.
Well,
and
you know,
I'm not saying it's not still good.
Whole program's cocked, boys.
It sure is.
Once you get Tourette's guy in there, it's really all downhill.
But I'm always thrilled to be surprised.
It's mostly wrestling videos and
it doesn't matter.
rap ad libs, but
we're just gonna get weirder and more far out every time we go.
Heck.
Yeah, and weird viral dog.
I wish there was more dog source, man. I'm really kind of broken up about dog source dying.
Can we start a shortwave radio station that just says heck?
It's just dogs having conversations.
Heck.
Oh,
Heck.
yes. We start broadcasting to all the dog spies.
It's like in the Dolphins episode where they learn how to man
Right.
ships and take over the universe.
Right. Drake should start his own shortwave dolphin number station
Whoa.
because he looks like a dolphin. That's the joke there. That was the punchline.
In case anybody was wondering how Drake and dolphins are related.
They are literally related
By not as many years of evolution as
by
you
blood.
might think.
By blood, not
By blood,
relation.
by DNA.
Yes.
So number stations, I guess we're putting behind us, but not fully putting behind us because, as you said, we're going to fast forward a few decades, and we kind of have. We have a new.
Maybe.
What do you mean?
Maybe we still have number stations.
Maybe
on the
we still
internet?
have number stations on the internet,
There's
or-
some weird shit out there that looks a lot like number stations.
or we have contemporary versions of potentially things that resemble
Yeah.
what a 21st century number station might.
One of the weirder examples of that is a Twitter account that is called Sierra Golf 5
where it does go down
in the DMs.
in the DMs.
Maybe. Yeah,
Sierra Golf or Golf?
Golf, Golf.
The sport.
Yes. So Sierra, Sierra, Golf, Golf 5, the numeral. Sierra Golf 5 has 318,000 tweets.
That's it's a bunch. It's a
Six-
whole big bunch.
62 followers,
Not a bunch.
and they're following 0 people.
Okay.
Every 6 minutes, it tweets a string of numbers and sometimes letters
Every 6 minutes.
in sets of 5. So every 6 minutes, oh boy, sorry about that one. Every 6 minutes,
Oh, geez, Rick.
oh geez, Rick,
Oh, geez, Rick.
I don't know about this. Every 6 minutes, it tweets a sequence of 23 sets of 5 numbers and or letters, alphanumeric, if you will.
Yep.
The only exception being that it sometimes tweets lines of English folk songs.
Aw.
Specifically,
How folksy.
okay, so direct tie into the number stations, though, because it specifically tweets lines of a folk song called the Lincolnshire Poacher,
Poacher.
which is an English folk song from the 1800s.
That was the one that was playing on the song earlier, right?
Yes.
The ice cream truck theme song.
Yeah, so that's the melody from the Lincolnshire Poacher.
Poacher.
This Twitter account, Sierra Golf 5, breaks up its strings of numbers and letters with occasional lines from that song. Every 6 minutes, 24 hours a day for years, I think. However long it would take to get to 318,000 tweets. Whoever wants to do that math.
Well, 6 minutes would be 10 an hour.
Or I could just, read Twitter when it says they joined September of 2013. So for the last 4 years, it's been tweeting every 6 minutes.
Woof.
And there are a few other ones like this. That's probably the weirdest and most consistent one. But there's also one called Zulu Tango 4, which does sort of a similar thing. It tweets every 5 minutes, and it's just strings of numbers.
Why does part of me, I'm just thinking out loud right now, but like, why does part of me have more skepticism over the validity and the reality of the Twitter version of this?
I do too.
But why is that though? Because I can't pin it down right now.
For one,
I'm just immediately like, that sounds like.
For one, it would be easier to do. You don't have to have the recordings. You don't have to broadcast it. You don't have to maintain equipment.
Yeah.
You could write a script, I'm sure, that would tweet sequences of random numbers every 5 minutes.
Easily.
So there doesn't have to be a person physically doing any of the work.
Right.
And from an espionage standpoint, it's way less secure because those tweets are physically coming from somewhere.
Yeah, but couldn't you, for all intents and purposes, you could just with a Tor browser create an account with a fake email, access it from that same computer.
Sure, but there would still be a record on someone's computer or phone somewhere of, logging into Twitter and tweeting these things, wouldn't there be?
Not if you really set your Tor browser up correctly. You can
like someone had to make that account, right?
Right, but you could do it all through Tor.
Maybe I don't really understand what Tor is. That might be part of the problem here.
Basically, as far as I understand it, and I'm sure there's going to be people who are listening to this who are like, you fucking idiots. But as far as I understand
wouldn't
Tor,
be the first time.
No, it's true. As far as I understand Tor browser and the way that it can be used is essentially it fully anonymizes your IP information when you're doing stuff, and fully every time you close a session and reopen a session, there is no trace of your internet session on the computer at all whatsoever. Because of the way that your traffic is anonymized while it's happening, there is no endpoint, there's no destination or start to what's happening. It just is like in the ether, basically.
But then on the other end, someone would have to be accessing this too.
Well, but Twitter is easy to. There's no record of me visiting anyone's Twitter feed.
Right. I'm just thinking out. I guess it's no different than having to have a radio. It's probably easier in a lot of ways. You pick up a burner phone and you go to Twitter.
Or you log into a public library computer, or you jack a stranger's phone. And
so maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm with you that on the surface level, it does feel, hey, Zulu Tango just tweeted 205430874778443.
Tell us what it means. Wouldn't it be wild if, like, as soon as we saw that tweet, just like a breaking notification came up that like some major town got like fucking destroyed or something?
It's exactly every 5 minutes. I'm gonna tweet at him and see what's up. Hey, Zulu Tango 4, are you?
Wait, hit him from the What If Podcast Twitter account and be like, which if you want to follow at What If Pod.
Yep. What am I saying to him?
Be like,
should I ask him to be on the show?
Do you have an email address we could contact you at? We are doing a podcast episode about you right now.
Done. Well, not done, but I'm doing it. So there are a few of these Twitter accounts that seem to be mimicking or carrying out the same purpose
concept
of number stations, just
blasting information out there
in a 21st century kind of way.
One of the reasons that makes less sense to me too, though, is like there's a lot of countries that block Twitter, or right. Twitter could go down at any moment. Like, where was it in Egypt during the Arab Spring stuff?
So could a radio transmission, though.
I mean more as in it could be taken down. Like, you can't access Twitter in China.
Right.
Or, during the Arab Spring in Egypt, people were using Twitter to communicate, like, rebellion and protest shit. And so Egypt was like, oops, none of you can go to Twitter now. Which
Right.
seems to me like if you were a spy,
You're
an
relying on
international spy,
You're relying on a third party that you don't have control over.
right?
Yeah.
And especially if we're talking about a world of international spies who could be
That's a good
traveling and doing stuff like that, you would probably not be psyched if your orders were, you know, coming through an avenue like that. But also, too, I mean, that doesn't invalidate the fact that, you know, you could be saying more benign things or more sort of, I don't know.
For whatever reason, it does read more like some kid who thought it'd be cool to write a script.
And get a bunch of people to wonder and get two guys who have a paranormal, weird comedy podcast to be
Or
like,
get a few minutes of Reddit fame or, you know.
what does ZT4 mean? Blah.
Right. One other one that was actually solved more or less was...
You didn't sound very confident when you
Well,
said the word solved.
There's an explanation for it. It's
Solved.
just, you know, the conspiracy guy in me never really accepts any of it as being totally true.
It's all lies.
Was WebDriver Torso on YouTube. You familiar with this one?
No, but I think the torso is a funny word.
It is a funny word.
I'm envisioning a floating internet guy. It's just no legs.
It was this YouTube account that put up videos that were basically just geometric shapes. It was a sequence of blue and red rectangles.
Okay.
And they posted thousands of these videos at regular intervals.
See, well, keep going.
And so people someone stumbled across this account and posted it on, I think Reddit was the driving force behind this initially, but it got a lot of traction across the internet.
Reddit, you so crazy.
Well,
we love you. We love you. You so crazy.
And people started flocking to this page trying to figure out like what the hell is going on. Why are they posting so often? It seemed like it had to be automated because they were posting more regularly than it was like every few seconds sometimes, like more regularly than you could make and upload these videos.
Right.
So there had to be like either a huge stockpile of them that the uploads were being automated somehow, or just like it didn't.
Or you're like logging in from multiple devices.
Yeah,
or...
it didn't really make sense. And long story short, it came out that Google was like, oh, yeah, we were testing something about uploading videos and compression artifacts or something, and we just figured no one would notice this account.
Really? They said that?
Yeah. And then they took it down or made it private or whatever. So Google actually came out and like in the press made a statement that was like, yeah, that's us. We were just testing shit. It was public. We figured no one would notice, and we didn't care if they did because we were just seeing how our new algorithms compressed these specific colors or these shapes or whatever. Right. So it's probably the right explanation.
Is it? Come on, Google.
But why would it be public?
That's what I'm saying. Any software company in the universe has sandbox environments and staging environments and test environments,
which is why I'm skeptical of that explanation.
Yeah, you don't
seems
just
unnecessary.
go, oh, oops, we made a real fucking weird.
Well, and anyone has the ability to make videos unlisted or private. Like, why would they need to be public if you're testing things?
Especially Google when you own
right. But I'm saying
YouTube.
every user has that ability, much less the company itself.
Right. I mean, Google let Google.com, the domain name, slip, and somebody bought it. Some dude in fucking India bought it. So. Yeah, right. So like, I guess it wouldn't be the first time a major corporation dropped the ball.
The same corporation
dropped the ball pretty hard on something like that, where like maybe it was a 23-year-old UC Davis graduate developer who's like, this is how I'm going to do this. And they were like, dog, you can't upload 1,400 videos to a public fucking YouTube account.
And then he was like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
And then he didn't have a job anymore.
So
it does sound a little shiesty to me, though. There's
that
something
one
weird
was
there.
Explained in quotes. You got one more story for us before
I do.
we wrap?
Let's take one really quick break, and then we'll come back, and I want to talk about the biggest scavenger hunt / internet puzzle I've ever encountered. We're going to talk about Cicada 3301 when we come right back in a second here on the What If Podcast.
He is gonna friggin' goose it, boys.
We are back. It's the What If Podcast.
We don't even care.
But you do, because you're still here and you are pondering the question, what if it really went down in the DMs? Which is really just our way of talking about like fucking weird, covert, potential intelligence agency, internet, and
Spy versus spy shit.
activity. Yeah. This could be a recurring one because we stumbled on a bunch of shit during this.
Also, if you want to DM us any dick pics, at What If Pod on Twitter.
Yeah, and also, just really quickly before we jump into this story, another thank you to everybody that's been talking about the podcast, tweeting about the podcast, retweeting our shit, sharing our shit. Yes. We don't do any like traditional podcast advertising, so everything that you do that is social media or just sharing it to a friend, emailing it to 5 buddies and being like, I'm having fun with this, we really fucking appreciate. So please do that if you can and if you want to. And also, if you have an idea for an episode, hi@whatifpodcast.com. Send us an email. We've gotten a couple suggestions. We're adding them to the queue.
Okay, real quick.
Yes, sir.
One of the suggestions we got, shout out to Tegan, was to do an episode about the flat earth.
Shout out to Lupe Fiasco.
And the flat earthers.
So, and his squad.
I think we should definitely do that episode.
Yes, I agree.
And I think we should go real big and try and get Kyrie Irving on it.
No, he's not.
Kyrie Irving is a flat earther, bro.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. So, Channing Frye has a podcast called Road Trippin', and Kyrie was talking about how A, he doesn't think that we went to the moon. B, he thinks the earth is flat. And C, he doesn't think that other planets are real. He thinks the whole idea of the solar system and planets and stars is made up.
Bro, I can't. I'll never watch Uncle Drew the same way ever again.
So I think we need to do that episode, and I think we need to start tweeting at Kyrie's PR people immediately and get this set up.
If you want Kyrie Irving to be on the podcast, please tweet. Include at Ryan Copperwood, at Big Cats Beats, at What If Pod, and whatever Kyrie's Twitter handle is.
I've also been aggressively tweeting at Shay Serrano to come on our podcast.
Oh,
so if we could get Shay and Kyrie to discuss their favorite conspiracy theories,
bro.
Just saying.
I would die and go to heaven if we could get Shay on here.
If any of the like 20 people that follow us on Twitter want to help facilitate that.
Well, just on the podcast, we got like 5,000 between the two of us in our actual personal accounts.
Yeah, if any of the like 3,000 people that follow me on Twitter want to help facilitate that, please go nuts.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
All
right. We'll rein it back in. But yeah, hi@whatifpodcast.com. Leave us a voicemail, 612-246-4614. And hit us up with anything you want. Tell your friends to tell your friends.
Any weird shit you want to talk to us about, do it.
We're probably down.
Yeah.
We're always down. Speaking of weird shit, Spencer.
What do you got?
I got a weird interweb puzzle.
Perfect.
That could potentially have some intelligence agency implications.
Heck.
Heck my language or my vocabulary at this point. It's called Cicada 3301.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, indeed. I know you know something about this, but
a bit.
I don't know how much you know about this.
I know that it exists. I specifically wanted you to dive into it, though, so I could not have to research it and just like find out cool shit live on the podcast.
Yeah, okay, tight. So I think I have some cool...
This one's all you.
I think I have some coolest shit. So... Cicada 3301. We're gonna go back to the year 2012.
Okay.
And we're gonna go back to January of 2012. And we're gonna go to a website called 4chan. Well, we're not because
yeah, don't do that. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Just things happen on 4chan that you probably don't want to be a part of. But that's where this story begins. And essentially, on 4chan, on the message boards of 4chan, this image starts popping up, right? And
what is the image?
The image is just white text on a black background. So it's not like pasted in text. It's actually like an image file.
Yeah.
But it's white text on a black image. And this is what it says. Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in the image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few who will make it all the way through. Good luck. And it was signed 3301.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
Right? Probably what most of 4chan thought.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
I mean, right? There's a message hidden in the image. Oh, okay. So essentially this kicks off Cicada 3301 as a concept. Where did the cicada come from? I forget this. The cicada was the image attached to it, or it was like an icon in it, right? Of a cicada.
Yeah, like why are they called Cicada 3301?
3301 was the way they signed their original message.
Right, but the image included a picture of a cicada.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this image starts showing up in 4chan, right? And people wanted to know what in God's name they were blathering about.
Yep.
Except that on 4chan you have a bunch of hackers and just general sort of unique individuals with unique skill sets.
You know what? He knows what he's doing.
Apparently they did. That's good pull. Great pull. I love when I tell stories, I need you to man the audio boards.
I can't do it for myself.
And when
as
you
well.
tell stories, I need to man the audio board, man. We got to spin it around.
You just got to get your own, man.
That's real.
It's way more fun if you don't know what sounds are coming.
That's true. People start investigating. And what they start finding out is that essentially in the source code of this image file, there's a clue. And the clue in this image file takes them to another clue and another clue and another clue. And there are all these, like I can't even start on what they all are. There's a massive amount of these clues, especially because 2012 was the first one, but they did one in 12, 13, 14, skipped 15 and did one in January of 16. So there's been a new...
Did what?
They basically created this scavenger hunt, started there's a clue here, figure it out and good luck.
So what was the clue hidden in the original image?
The clue hidden in the original image, that's a really good question. I actually don't remember or know what it was. It was something about...
or how did people like start on this scavenger hunt, or what led them to the next step in this sequence?
The way that I understand it, I'm going to pull this from, I was reading a Fast Company article about this, and this is the way they break it down. We're going to get to this in a second, but they did an interview with one of the only people that has come forth who actually completed the whole puzzle with Cicada 3301.
Okay.
This kid named, and he was a kid, he was like 16 when he did it. His name is Joel Erickson.
Cool.
And so here's what they say, and I'm going to read directly from this because it's the easiest way to understand it. For what it's worth, a lot of these things are like hyper-technical cryptology, numerology. We'll get to some of like what the clues contain. You got to know
a lot about a lot of different types of things.
Yeah, so this is what he did to like break the first image.
Okay.
From the first image that was posted, this is the quote.
Yep.
From the first image that was posted, Erickson used a stenography software to extract a message encoded with a shift cipher where each letter of the text actually corresponds to another letter. Mm-hmm. Once he decoded the cipher, it revealed a URL where another image of a duck was posted. Here, he used stenography tools to reveal a hidden book code of a list of two numbers separated by a colon. The book code led to a Reddit URL with Mayan numerals at the top of a page. Erickson then noticed that several posts by a user using a pseudonym seemed to consist of encoded text. This text was the, quote, book the book code could be used to decode. But to find the cipher, he needed to find a key first, which he then gleaned from translating the Mayan numerals on the page. So...
Holy shit.
It's like, yeah, and that's why I had kind of a tough time originally answering, like, what led them to the next thing. Like, these guys are fucking far out,
Donnie,
right?
you're out of your element.
I am out of my element when it comes
That's how I felt just listening to you read that article.
Right.
I mean, you said a 16-year-old kid figured that out?
Yeah.
Fuck?
A handful of people have sort of solved these things, and there's only been a couple that have like come forward. And yeah, so basically what they do is they create a starting scavenger hunt with an image on 4chan every year. And I say they because the they is proverbial and sort of unknown. Well, and I'll get to that in 1 second too. But here's over the course of, so like I said, 12, 13, 14, skipped 15 and did 1 in 16. And the 4 sort of, it sounds corny to call them scavenger hunts. They're more like Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code-esque internet.
It's more in-depth than that, yeah.
Yeah, to the point where they've also involved real-world situations where people had QR codes in different cities in the world.
I was going to ask about that because it wasn't just online,
It was not just online, although there were much fewer things that happened in the real world, but there were monuments and...
Weren't there some like collaborative aspects to it too, where like one individual person couldn't necessarily, unless you were traveling a ton, figure out every aspect of it?
Potentially. Originally, they actually got mad at people for collaborating, so they tried to make the original ones exclusively like an individual could and should do them.
Got it.
But yes, like there are, like if you lived in Bolivia, you would have no way to know what the QR code in France was, so you did have to do some either traveling or some teamwork.
Someone would have to,
to get it figured out.
Okay.
So just to give you an image of the depth and the breadth, I'm going to read another quote to you.
Cool.
The Cicada 3301 clues spanned many different communication media, including the internet, telephone, original music, bootable Linux CDs, digital images, physical paper signs, and pages of unpublished cryptic books. In addition to using many varying techniques to encrypt, encode, or hide data, these clues have also referenced a wide variety of books, poetry, art, and music. And the way they break down the categories of what is actually included in the clues are, there's 3 main categories. Literary and artistic references is 1. 2 is philosophical references. And 3 is cryptographic, mathematical, and technological references.
Gotta.
Oh, welcome, Drizzy. Our dolphin spirit animal, welcome. So just
that's a huge range of stuff.
I'm going to read just randomly from the list. There's like hundreds of these. Number theory, prime numbers, onion router, which is to use Tor to like get to fucking darknet shit.
Thought it was how you organize your onions, but
do you do that?
Yeah.
You eat enough veggies in this house. MC Escher, cuneiform, ego death, collective intelligence, Zen Buddhism. There's like really high level and really specific level concepts that all exist in this process that you have to have some knowledge of to be able to fight your way through all of these clues.
And a 16-year-old kid put that all together on his own?
So he says, yeah. So the article I found is an interview with this kid at the time who cracked one of them, basically got to the end. And on the end of it, the proverbial they, sent him an email with a darknet Tor URL to go to, and his email included a username and password. And he logged into essentially a forum of some kind where a unknown group of people existed on the internet.
Okay, then.
See, we can tell that I'm telling the story and you're running the soundboards.
Yeah, because you get fucking pill ad libs.
Pill ad libs during my stories.
So, and then what? We don't know?
Well,
this dude joined a cult?
It sounds a little culty though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess the interesting question, obviously there's a lot interesting to everything we've just said, but I think the really interesting question is, who the fuck is putting all this work into it, right? Because this kid that they interview is one of the things that he says in the interview process is he's like, there are dependents in this process, right? Like one clue depends on another clue.
Oh, sure.
And the other one depends on the other one. And these are all things that existed either in the physical world or, again, like they're talking about, sometimes you had to use a telephone to go and like dial a number, and like there are all kinds of things that chronologically
it's all in sequence though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like sequentially you would have to have set up these things to work in the way
in a specific order, yeah.
Right, in order to get through them. And so it appears to be a masterfully large effort to work people through this funnel if they can suss out all of the details. So the question is, who?
It's a pretty big undertaking by whoever set it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question becomes then, who or what entity or group of people has enough time and resources, I mean money, like to some extent, if you're printing out QR posters and hanging them on, walls and like doing crazy shit
and all over the world too. Right. It wasn't just in the US.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like tons of different cities had
so either you have connections around the globe or you're traveling to do these things.
Right. Both of which kind of
imply some money and some
network
connections.
And exactly. So who's doing this? Who is finding it worth their time to do this thing?
Are there some theories about that?
Plenty, as we know, the internet has theories aplenty on.
Yeah, no shortage of speculation
on everything. Right. There's a few main ones.
Okay.
One, it's an alternative reality game.
Whoa.
So
for what purpose?
To beat it, in the same way that we kind of talked about how, can you do it? Are you capable of it?
But what would be the motivation to organize that? Like what we were just talking about. Like it would take a lot of effort and time and probably resources to set this up. What would be the incentive for whoever's organizing it?
It's a great question, and that is why people kind of bat that argument down, is because no company or specific person or group of people has publicly taken credit for it. So you would think
would probably be the end result of something like that.
Right. If you wanted to monetize it, or if you wanted to be known for it, or you wanted to...
It sort of rules out any commercial backing,
application.
Right?
Right. I would agree with that. Like,
you'd have to, because it's been, you said, since 2012?
Yep.
So we're talking 5 years without anyone claiming credit for it?
Yep.
No one's marketing something for 5 years without cashing in on it.
No, yeah. And also, too, I feel like those things are pretty easy to sniff out once you get deep enough into them, that this is some sham run by somebody.
Right.
And also, too...
And they're probably not smart enough to do...
I was literally just going to say, the depth and level of what was happening was like...
There's some real intelligence behind it.
Exactly. Yeah. So... There are a couple other ones. One.
Show me what you got.
Another theory about Cicada 3301. Some people have posited that there are many banks who are interested in the concept of cryptocurrency.
How's cryptocurrency?
Like Bitcoin, basically. The need to decode things quickly in order to gain more currency.
And it's what, a recruitment tool or something, or
this is the idea that if it were a bank who wanted to get the best people at decoding codes of any kind or many kinds, this would be a pretty good way for them to find those people on the internet, and without being like, apply to work at this bank kind of thing.
But then why the philosophical and artistic, and like there's some elements of it that wouldn't seem to jive with a purely
financial.
Yeah, like you said that they were creating original music for parts of it and stuff.
Right.
It seems to be somewhat like culture or philosophy or arts driven on some level too, which to me wouldn't really vibe with a bank.
Right. I would say yes, and or that the entity in question values those those elements of a person's ability to crack a code. If you have a knowledge, that is expansive enough that it could incorporate, not just mathematical things, not just scientific things, but
we'll pick up on all sorts of cultural
references and things like that you might want people that have a little broader understanding. So that's another one.
All right.
And the last and the kind of the tie-in is that there's a lot of people that have posited that Cicada 3301 is a recruitment tool for some either national or international intelligence agency looking for people who can...
New recruits, basically.
New recruits. People who are smart enough, worldly enough, experienced enough to be able to crack very complex, multi-layered, baffling. I mean,
and not only that, but there's a ton of technological knowledge and skill that would have to go into it too.
Mind-blowing levels of it.
And that combination has got to be pretty rare of people that know philosophy and literature and art and music, but also have the skill in a technological sense to be able to do a lot of things, like find codes in a image file and break ciphers and all that kind of shit.
Absolutely.
It seemed like an extremely narrow group of people that would actually fit that, which is why it's so fucking crazy that a 16-year-old is one of the people who allegedly did it.
Yeah, and the guy who wrote the article basically he basically was like, when he first wrote about Cicada 3301, he got emailed. He said, I think the quote in the article on Fast Company is like, my inbox was never the same. And he got hit up all the time with all these people who were like, you wrote the article about this. I know those people. I cracked it, whatever. And he said a lot of it was like weird and kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, one of them was like, oh, you seem like this could ring true. And he said he did a bunch of research, found out that this cat was like a computer science major at like a really well-known school, and like was able to basically go, yeah, I could see why you would have been a person. And he had apparently some proof of the fact that he did it.
That's a sophomore in high school though.
Right. He was like, the guy was saying that when he was interviewing the kid, he was 19 years old and he could hear him just like hacking at his keyboard while they were like chatting over Skype.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So what,
right?
You said he was 19 when they did the interview?
Correct.
So did the kid end up he must at least know who's behind it, right?
So
does that kid work for the CIA or MI6 or something now?
He was in school at the time. So as far as we're aware, not working for a government agency, but essentially when he got to the top or I guess, he said he was like low-key disappointed that he was sort of a 16-year-old. It was a forum. There was a lot of, he called them assignments. There were things being sort of shared and things to do, codes to crack, like puzzles and stuff like that. The type of shit that like got people in there. But it was more like, he said it was more almost like a place for people of this ilk to interact more than it was actually them doing things like they had done to get there.
And he never met anyone face to face or anything?
Nope, never met physically. Weird. It was only like this Tor browser link that he got with his username and password to be able to interact in this forum. And there was there was some actually let me find this really quick. There's a quote that he put out there that is kind of interesting.
So this dude just bounced and went back to reading 4chan and doing his homework?
He said he was a 16-year-old with, quote, a short attention span.
Fuck.
So this is literally a quote from this dude. He says, quote, I just got bored. I had a job. I was working at a startup. And of course that requires focus. And the puzzle solving was over. I was 16? Short attention span. It's just the puzzle solving is over. So I said, screw this. I'm out. Which is amazing because it's
good for him, man.
Legitimately the most complex internet puzzle that anyone has been able to suss out. And he
He was just bored with it.
Quote unquote won the game and was like, nah, fuck it. Not for me. I don't really care.
Well, it's got to be disappointing too to do all that work and establish yourself as maybe one of the most intelligent people in the world.
Right?
And you get nothing. Like, you don't get a job offer. You don't even get a face-to-face meeting with anyone. You get a link to a chat room.
You get this. So this dude says, and I think I was referencing Joel Erickson earlier, which is actually from a separate article. This other dude is a kid who goes by Technology. That's his hacker name. It's like TEKKNOLAGI. Joel Erickson is an older dude who made a different pass through it. Technology is the 16-year-old kid. Isn't it cute? Mm-hmm. What you get is this message from Cicada, the organization.
Whoever it might be, yeah.
You have all wondered who we are. And so we shall now tell you we are an international group. We have no name. We have no symbol. We have no membership rosters. We do not have a public website, and we do not advertise ourselves. There's no punctuation in this, by the way. I'm inserting pauses.
Is this all coming also in the voice of the Bell Labs computer?
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So we do not advertise ourselves. We are a group of individuals who have proven ourselves much like you have by completing this recruitment contest, and we are drawn together by common beliefs. A careful reading of the text used in the contest would have revealed some of these beliefs: that tyranny and oppression of any kind must end, that censorship is wrong, and that privacy is an inalienable right. You are undoubtedly wondering what it is that we do. We are much like a think tank in that our primary focus is researching and developing techniques to aid the ideas we advocate: liberty, privacy, security. You have undoubtedly heard of a few of our past projects, and if you choose to accept your membership, we are happy to have you on board to help with future projects. Not assignments, projects is what they call them.
That party sounds like it sucks.
It does sound real boring, right? And I guess you would have to think that a group who's smart enough to put this whole thing together might not be the most social and able to market the project once you're in there.
Well, you didn't sell me on anything. I still don't know what you do or what you want me to do or what's in it for me or anything.
Totally. You have projects that you're going to do, and you get to be part of a cool, quote unquote, cool sub counterculture darknet, puzzle playing group. Right. You guys put together 10,000 piece puzzles on the internet. And I'm not saying it's not fucking impressive. I couldn't do it for a second, but I'm just saying that it does seem sort of anticlimactic, doesn't it?
But if you have those skills, why would you put them to use in that way? Where you're not being compensated, you don't know what you're even working on. Why wouldn't you either go work on something that you really believe in or get paid a shitload of money or both?
So I had an interesting thought while I was reading these articles and researching this.
Okay.
What if this dude missed the point?
Which
the technology, what if he was I beat it, I won, I'm in. And what if, I was reading that email, and for a group of people who are extremely intelligent and have all of this numerology, crypto, everything knowledge, mm-hmm. There's no punctuation. It's grammatically kind of fucked up.
Oh, what if that email was also a code?
What if he stopped looking too soon? How do you know it's done?
Didn't he also you said he also got a link and some credentials though, right?
The link and the credentials were to a forum, and apparently that email was either part of that process of getting welcomed in.
Oh.
So it was we hope you accept your membership. And then he came in, and that's when he found the forum where it was people interacting.
Maybe there was another step.
Maybe there was another level to the inception where that he missed and he gave up, because I just feel like they wouldn't send out an email that sloppy after you've done all of this wicked intelligent work so far. No punctuation, it just reads kind of awkwardly. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it would be, but it does seem wicked anticlimactic to be we put all this effort forth.
I would think someone that adept at thinking in that way and breaking ciphers and all that stuff would catch that though.
But maybe that's the point, is you weed out that final 2% till you get to that 1%.
But he would have already had to be doing all those things on all the previous steps. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He did similar but more complicated more difficult things 20 times to get to that point. If there was really something there, wouldn't he have caught it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you could probably have said that about any step previous to some extent. Right. Like, you know, you made it to this step.
Yeah, maybe that subtle variation was just enough to weed out
right.
one or two more people.
Right. Maybe the weird Reddit thread was the key. That's the last step. Like, you found this weird, interesting conversation on Reddit. Oh, just kidding. The Mayan ruins in the picture mixed with the usernames in this thread,
right,
actually take you another step further into the beast, into
the Matrix.
Right. To this day, no one knows what Cicada 3301 actually is.
Which is pretty tight.
Which is pretty tight. I mean, like, the fact that, you know, he kind of threw some shade at him is what it is, but I think the fact that they keep doing it, I mean, again, this article was from 2014. They've kept doing them. They did one in 2016 that came out. I think it's fascinating. I think it's a fascinating use of the technology to see what people are capable of.
And the fact that anyone can, or any group of people can totally conceal their identity while communicating and appealing to the few people on the planet who should be able to find out their identity if anyone can.
Right.
And remain anonymous for 5 years or whatever it's been.
And slowly drag people down a rabbit hole of like crazy fucking clues.
All over the world.
Right?
That's pretty dope.
I want it to be intelligence agencies. Because that to me is the coolest answer.
It's kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of the only answer, isn't it?
It seems to me.
Or some variation on that. Like, who else would have the resources to do it? I don't know. That email reads like some fucking neckbeard hacker bullshit.
Maybe, but it also could read like it's trying to be a neckbeard hacker bullshit.
Yeah.
To potentially woo that crowd.
Or to dissuade certain people from continuing.
Right.
You want to get all the 16-year-olds out.
Yeah. Who are like, fuck this, I'm bored. Hey, bro, let's play some Halo 2.
Because you can't send a 16-year-old into Russia to do anything. The kid would die in 5 minutes on the ground.
Yeah, right. He'd be like, hey, can I restart the mission? No, bro, you're dead. No, you're dead. All right, man. It went down in the DMs on Reddit and on Twitter.
Send us your dick pics.
Well, I mean,
send Ryan your dick pics.
Please don't. Please don't. All right, bro. It's been real. As always, ask us questions. Hit us up at whatifpod 612-246-4614. Hi at whatifpodcast.com. And we'll be back next week with another question.
Peace.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the What If Podcast. Learn more at www.whatifpodcast.com.